Hi, I'm Hanna Larsson, and this is part 2 in the lecture series of qualitative interviews. And in this lecture, we talk briefly about who to interview. Let's start off with this picture that I had as a last slide in the first lecture part. This model or guidelines from Myers and Newman. With regards to who to talk to, the third guideline is very much relevant: the representation of various voices. They write that in qualitative research, it's usually necessary to interview a variety of people within an organization or from different organizations. It's important to find different interviewees because you can achieve some kind of triangulation of subjects. The idea is to find different points of view, different voices, different perspectives, because no interviews will be alike. You should not attempt to force one voice, one perspective, but rather try to find multiplicity, find conflicting perspectives or additional perspectives. And that is something that is highly ingrained in how you choose who to talk to in qualitative interviews. As opposed to more positivistic ideals from quantitative research, where we often talk about randomized sampling as the ideal of how to select uh, who to involve in a study, qualitative research often has another way of approaching it, being much more selective in who to include. For instance, selection is often done in a systematic way based on certain criteria. For instance, if we have a theory in the background, or if we have some strategic thinking in terms of who we need to talk to in order to fulfill or cover a certain topic. This can also mean that we seek out more extreme cases rather than trying to find some kind of normally distributed sample of a population. Rather, we want people with extreme views or lots of opinions. So, we try to find, for instance, if we take some example, a wide scope to capture these different perspectives, these different voices. An example could be persons in different companies or different roles in a company, or people with different backgrounds in terms of ethnicity, gender. I mean, we can make this list go on. Depending on what you're interested in finding out, getting these different perspectives will be done in different ways. We can also talk about selection of informants at different levels. For instance, organizational, where we try to get different kinds of organizations represented, depending on the case again, if we're not focusing on a case study in a solo organization. Or can be on an individual level, where we, for instance, try to go for different roles or assignments in an organization. Another common technique to combine with this is snowball sampling. For instance, when you've had a fruitful interview, you could ask, who else should I talk to in your organization, or someone that you know who can tell me more about this specific thing that I'm interested in knowing more about. So that's a way of, again, letting the informants guide you or direct the direction that this study is going to take. And of course, there are other ways of selecting who to include as well. For instance, convenience sampling, taking whoever is at hand, which might not be recommendable. Um, but these techniques, I would say, are the most common ones. So, I urge you to read up more on this specific topic. And the final thing to mention here really is that you should be well thought through and well motivated in terms of who you choose to talk to when doing qualitative interviews. And think about this criteria of having multiple voices. What does that mean for your study? Thanks for listening.